Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Recollection Step, a Grand Archive TCG podcast, part of the Maindeck podcast family. I'm Dan.
And I am Taylor. Dan, how have you been?
Not as good as you.
No,
Mr.
That's true.
That's Mr. True. Qualified for Worlds. Let's go.
Oh, it's so exciting. I could not be happier right now. I've been like kind of just giggling for like a week straight at this. Well, not a week straight, like 5 days straight at this point as time of recording. By the time people hear this, it'll probably be a week straight. So yeah, it's pretty great.
Yeah. So very exciting. We just got back from NA Nationals. So for everyone who missed that, huge event, really sick. Honestly, the stream, I was casting the event and we had so many matches that were like so cool, had so many cool moments in them, some insane plays. A lot of you probably thought Mandate of Honor was a bad card, but I got a match you got to watch. It's insane.
That match was sick. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, there was a lot of cool stuff happening. And then of course we had a huge showing from Maindeck at the event, and we got, just from our team alone, we got 2 of the world spots locked in with Maindeck Taylor and Maindeck Mitch, and then Maindeck Corbin snagged one of the Gauntlet slots as well.
Oh, I'm so excited for Corbin. This is like the coolest thing ever. If you would have asked me on Friday how good I thought Corbin was, I would have said he is far and away the single best player in Grand Archive without a day 2 to his name. And now not only does he have a day 2 to his name, but he has a Gauntlet slot. I'm very excited for Corbin. I'm very proud of him.
Yeah,
it's very dope.
Importantly, I wasn't playing this year because infamously last Nationals, I got into day 2 at 32nd and bubbled in, and Corbin was 33rd and bubbled out. So he missed his day 2 there.
Yeah, don't worry. I took up the mantle this year. I gate kept him from top 8. We played each other in a winning in for top 8, and I made sure to keep him out a little bit. So
yeah. You gotta give him something to fight for. He's best when he's scrappy. I think.
100%. I mean, he's a very strong player, but he's also very content. And so if he's not fighting for something, he just needs a little bit of extra motivation sometimes. So
I like it. Yep. Mm-hmm. Kind of the tough love from the Maindeck team here.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, just insane showing. It was so much fun. That the event itself was a ton of fun. We're going to go this episode. We're going to talk about Nats and kind of the meta of Nats and the fallout of that, and then what comes next. There's not a whole lot actually next until Worlds, so that's kind of sweet. So yeah, this will probably end up being a short and sweet episode, which Dan probably appreciates. I think he's pretty busy at the moment, and he just came off casting Nats, just came off of a birthday, so he didn't get anything done yesterday. So here we go.
That's true.
He's catching up a little bit and needs a little bit of an easy episode, I think. So, this was very cool. I feel kind of bad too, because I feel really good actually, because in our notes for the episode this week, I wrote in it, I called my shot last week. I said Corbin won Nats, and we were so close. It feels really good still. We all did really well, and I'm really happy with the work we put in as a team and with the results. Just everything went really well.
Yeah, and I have to give a shout out as well to our friends at True Champion Gaming. Mm-hmm. This Cat's totally out of the bag on this right now, so I guess I don't mind just talking about it a little bit. But a little while back, we connected around when we went to the Michigan Regional, and I judged up there, the one that Mitch stole as well on Fractals. And we talked a little bit about, all the stakes this year and everything. Like TCG's really been working hard to try to get their players, more of their players into Worlds. And so they kind of proposed that let's work together a little bit. So we had kind of like an elite group of warriors joined the ranks of the true champions from Maindeck for a little bit. And it was, if anything, I just want to point out that, first of all, TCG is awesome to work with. It's been really fun, actually, just to kind of dig into their workflow a little bit and kind of see how the two different teams operate. That's been really beneficial, but just point out that you can always learn from working with others. Absolutely. And I think that went both ways on the team. And I think our results really show the effectiveness of that willingness to collaborate with each other, because now after this national season, there are 5 members of TCG that are in either Worlds or the Gauntlet, and then 3 members of Maindeck that made in there. And given that we could only attend one of the 4 Nats, unlike some of those, it's pretty good. I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, I feel great. I like asking for any better result would actually just be selfish at this point. So
right.
Things just lined up super well. And all the work we put in paid off. Big congrats to Champion Gaming for putting their whole team into the Worlds, either play-in or proper. And as well, also congrats to the rest of the participants from NA Nationals who qualified this weekend. It was a really tough tournament. It was just there were a ton of strong players in the room, and it came down to just a bunch of really strong players duking it out and fighting for some spots. So
that top 8 was just disgustingly brutal. Hard matches. There was no I really hope I get this match in top 8. Even the ones when we were casting are this is very favored towards this player. Then they lost because these players are just so good.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, yeah. It was insane. Congrats to Jafacha for taking down the whole thing and just really putting on a show of what the mill deck, what the Genbu deck is capable of. Had some pretty sick top 4. I didn't see as much of the top 8 as much of his top 8 game, but I saw a lot of his top 4 game, a lot of his finals match, and it was fantastic. Just excellent showing on his part.
Yeah, the matchup against Luxem that we streamed, that was semifinals, I think. That was top 4, I think.
No, it was quarters.
That was quarters? Okay. Yep. That one, that makes sense because I was casting that one. Okay, cool. That one is if you are a Watermill aspirant, if you're interested in performing well on Watermill, it's required viewing. You have to go watch that. The way he manages to win that game is insane. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. In fact, don't hold me to this, but my plan is actually to make a video specifically on one moment of that. I want to pull the clip down if it's available. But the big thing is if I can get the clip, but since it's quarters, it should be fine. Mm-hmm. I want to do a video talking about this play that Joe Facha makes, that it was so next level that I guarantee 95% of Genbu players, maybe 98%, would not have even thought to do this play, and it's literally the reason he won. It's crazy.
Yeah. I'm in context currently with Prize Picks about whether Dan's actually going to get this video made or not. We're going to try and get this up on the app as a betting line. So if you guys are into that, no, I'm just kidding. Obviously, that's not happening. I don't know what kind of legality is around online betting and this kind of stuff. So I want to make sure we're not getting in too deep. But
I appreciate that. I bet it's okay for this.
We're just making jokes.
Don't do it on the results of games that are being played.
Yeah, no, yeah.
That's the one to avoid for sure.
Yeah.
Whether or not Dan makes videos, that's probably fair to get on.
That's not a problem.
And I can tell you should bet against me all the time.
Absolutely, yes. I speak from experience when I say that. 100%. But yeah, no, what Dan said earlier is all the streamed games. Actually, there were so many good games streamed this weekend. Definitely go check them out. Take the time to go check them out. If you haven't already, ton of top players just playing at a really high level, kind of really cool decks. Let's just kind of jump into the event. So, I'm going to give a quick recap because I think it's pretty funny how I got to top 8, starting off day 1 with the bye, just like super lucky.
That's right. Yeah. Like free win, baby.
I think that's like kind of the funniest part of the whole weekend. But no, I mean, we got down there like Thursday night with everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people on main deck. Had some good food quick, jammed a couple games, had some fun. And then we spent like Friday just like jamming games all day again. Like that's kind of like the tradition at this point, and it's so much fun. It's like my favorite part of these events is just getting these final reps and getting the final preparation. And even if you don't have a whole day to just like jam games like that on site, just taking some time and sitting and thinking about matchups and kind of just going through lines in your head is super useful to get you focused for the day after the start of the tournament. You don't have to spend the whole day. Just like take like an hour or two or whatever, and just kind of think about what your matchups are and think how you're going to approach them. And that's going to do wonders for helping you go into the tournament the next day and stay focused and ready to play and make sure you're not making a ton of mistakes. So yeah, after Friday we had dinner at, there was like a Mexican place, nearby the convention center and the hotels, which was great. Actually, there was
Zapatas.
like, yeah, that place was dope, by the way. I really liked that.
It was good.
The food was really good. There were a good amount of restaurants around the venue. Actually, like this was a pretty good Nats venue, I would say. No shade to Houston last year, but this was like, the venue was just like kind of a step up as far as the area goes and what was available and what was easy to access. So there were a ton of hotels right next to the convention center. Like you just walk across the street instead of trying to, like find a spot close to the venue last year and like figure out how to get there. It was like more centrally located. So it was easier for people to get, like centrally located in the country. So it was easier for people to get to just in general. Overall, just like, I would say very good Nats venue.
The hotels nearby were not the nicest, but
they're fine.
They were like the economy level, like a step above motel, like you got like motel and then you got the step above and then you have like regular, I don't know.
There was a pretty good range of options there. Like there was no like nothing like super duper fancy or anything, but you had everything from budget options to like, decent mid-tier options. So like I think it worked out pretty well for a lot of people. Just, worked. Yeah. So you had a lot of really good options at kind of each price point, which was sweet. So, we drove down this time, which was great. Cause like, having a car, even though there was a lot of stuff within walking distance, it was still, that made it a lot of things more convenient. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, that's a lot for the lead up. The tournament itself was awesome. Obviously, Mitch and I finishing in top 8 and Corbin getting a Gauntlet slot is sick. Just, I'm going to be gushing about that for quite a while. So sorry, everybody, if that gets old, but
for the rest of the team, we had, I mean, people were starting to see how large our team is for one. We had a lot of players playing in it, and one thing I think about with a lot of people do wonder, I think, why our team is so large. And I guess just my mentality, just so I put it out there for people to listen to, is that I'm not interested in like I don't mean this like, because other teams do this and it's like not a terrible thing, but just the elite mentality of like, if you are not X good, you don't get to be even, touch our team or whatever. We have a lot of players, and like the main thing for our players in our team is like, there's some proximity that we tend to base, we have players in our local area and then players in the local area around the Banish Zone, the Pennsylvania area. And then we have a Northwest Arkansas group as well.
I mean, main deck is essentially like 3 different kind of locals like smashed together for the most part
for our competitive team. Yes. And so there's some of that is like, it's basically, it's like we have these local areas where one or a couple of people have gotten very competitive, and those people have then kind of wrangled in a group of people who have at least a similar drive for a competition. And what results is like a large team, but with a wide range of like present skill levels. Um, and so we have, we have some of our players who are the names that you might know if you just follow competitive people like Taylor, Mitch, Steve-O, Corbin, maybe starting to be known a little bit soon, hopefully, etc. Those are, those are the names that like are the ones who just are consistently performing. So people get to see them, but like they get to be as a part of this large team thing. We have a bunch of these other players who want to get to that stage and get to actively kind of work with Mitch and Taylor and Steve-O and Corbin and Kinship and Ash and all these people who do actually take a lot of store champs, a lot of regionals, whatever. And that's my goal is really just to nurture a really, really strong competitive team. And so we do that by just like keeping it a little bit larger, but then kind of helping people, have things to strive for. Pretty soon we're launching the website relaunch, which will really identify the members of the team, and you'll get to see some of their accomplishments and everything. And that, I think that'll really help show people what we've done and what we're doing, and you can actually watch and see as this works and our team members start to glean some of that skill and knowledge and start to improve their performance over time too.
Mm. Yes. Yeah, no, definitely. There's something to be said for keeping a team like smaller, tighter. Things can stay a little bit more focused, but at the same time, there's a lot to be said for having kind of a really wide range of like experiences on your team, both just like life experience and also like Grand Archive experience. Just adding all these different viewpoints can cause you to have to like look at things in different ways that you might not. Like there's a lot of times where I'll look at a deck and I'm like, this is kind of an interesting deck. I'm not exactly sure what's happening here or why. And then you listen to somebody kind of explain how they got there and why and how, and you put those pieces together and you realize you have to like, you have to take another step back and remember to look at these like decks as like kind of holistic pieces instead of just like, what are the standout cards? Are these cards like individually powerful enough and do they match like the game plan and all that? And there's a lot to be said too for like just more experienced players being around to like teach and mentor less experienced players. Like there's a lot to learn from like the mentor position in that as well. Just like remembering like you have to explain your lines and figure out how you got there and like show your math, right? Like, back in high school when you're doing math tests and stuff, you can't just write the answer and have your teacher give you full marks because they're like, well, how did you get there? Like you've got to be able to show your work and show how you got there. So yeah, I mean, I have really enjoyed having like such a large team to work with because on top of that, there's like almost always somebody to like practice with too, which is also great.
That's really great.
Like there's like at least 20 people on the team and varying skill levels and accomplishments. But like the great part of that is there's, somebody always is going to be available to like play some games if you need that. So.
The thing that's been we've talked about a little bit with this collaboration with Champion Gaming, testing, sharing decks, that kind of stuff is like, we got to see like a pretty interesting difference between how our large team operates. Mm-hmm. And like you said, that mentorship coming into play a lot of the time. And then comparing that to True Champion Gaming, who is really a lot more on the like small elite squad. And so like, we see the difference in like what our testing reps look like with theirs and like how they get in, they might have overall like, fewer different decks that are being tried or whatever, different times or whatever. But when they're playing those games, they're getting high level, like grind every time. Mm-hmm. Where some of ours is like, maybe things take a little longer. We have to sit back and kind of explain, and build up another player. And we have to we always have to be cognizant of what we're missing, I think, too, mm-hmm. From either side of the equation, as far as just like trying to get the both quality and quantity testing.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I mean, it's been awesome. And I'm excited to keep working with everybody because it's been a very rewarding experience, not even just like this weekend, but throughout the last, since like Toronto is really when we started working together with like everybody that we've got on the team. So
yeah.
I'm excited to keep that going. So
so as far as how our huge team did at Nationals Day 1, not my favorite, but a really funny moment, I should say. It was not my favorite at all. I hated this, but right after round 1, I had casted round 1, and then I went and was like, how's everyone doing? And like over half the team lost round 1. And most of them said the same thing. Oh, I went up against Fire Lorraine and they dunked me. Mm-hmm. That was it. Like, we tested against this, right? Maybe not enough. I don't know.
No, I think, so the Fire Lorraine into so first of all, like most of main deck was on Fractals, because that deck is awesome and it rules. But yeah, from what we had tested, the Fire Low matchup can be, I think it's even to slightly favored for Fractals, but that's also just like a high variable matchup where like either deck can like high roll and really just take a game on turn 2 or 3 without much counterplay. Yep. So like, I think that's what happened in a lot of those cases, but yeah, both Mitch and Corbett lost round 1 and then ended up day 1 at 7-1. So they just like won out for the rest of the day, which was sweet.
Yeah.
Completely different like situation from what I had, where I started the day 4-0 after my round 1 bye.
Yeah. You were scaring me at the end of the day, dude.
And then I took 2 losses after that and had an unintentional draw around 7. So I'm going in and like, I have to win round 8 in order to actually make day 2. So they cruised to day 2 and I really sweated it out.
You had like that performance that I think a lot of players think or like feel like is not possible. You started off with the bye, so your tiebreakers were not good from that. Mm-hmm. And then you got a few early wins, which a lot of us can relate, I think, to that story of like, yeah, day's starting great, win. And then you just like, everything just kind of fell apart for a little bit. And you end up squeaking into day 2 with just barely the record you need to kind of get in there. Mm-hmm. And then you did the thing where then you just went and locked in and won your way into top 8 from there. Like, it's so sick. I love that it can happen. Like, and It doesn't seem like it can, but it can.
Absolutely, it does. No, yeah. That's the thing, right? Don't quit putting your work in. Don't quit focusing until you're actually like out of contention, because stuff happens. As long as you're live, you're live, and you've just got to make it work. That's very cliched, right? But like that's what it is. So I was going to save this for a little later, but this is like an appropriate time for it. But one of the big takeaways I took from this tournament was just like, you hear in sports all the time, like one team wants it more and you're like, oh, it doesn't make any sense. They're just better. And no, like that's a really big part of it. Like, you need to want it. So like I felt, that's a lot of the reason why I was able to lock in again, like end of day 1, day 2, and really focus and stay on the ball and make the correct plays at the appropriate times. Cause I could tell, like, once I made top 8 and once I had locked in my world's qualification, like, I still wanted it, but I was too content with the result at that point. And I lost focus completely. So like wanting, like as cliche as that sounds, like wanting it is like a huge part of actually like making it to top 8 and to getting better results and staying focused and staying on top of the plays you need to make. If you don't want it, it's a lot harder to like keep your head in the game and not get distracted.
Yeah. I think in general, people underrate or maybe just like still don't understand the level of a number of different things that you kind of need to have to be a consistent TCG performer. The drive is huge. And again, like, that's for main deck, that's our main criteria, is like, if you're not interested in trying to attend events, trying to improve your performance, trying to earn a spirit, whatever your goal is fine. If you don't have a goal that is in the competitive spirit, then, we just want players who want to do that, because those are contributors to whether or not you're taking information, giving information, whatever. you need to have that drive to be wanting to participate in every element of it, right? But yeah, like the drive is a huge thing, and the drive changes your play. It really does. Your mental state is a huge part of this. Another thing people underestimate is how many reps are actually required to be at the top level. It's high, actually. It's
incredibly high, 100%.
Yeah. Like when I say that, I realize maybe I'm jargoning a little bit. How many times you need to play your deck against everything over and over and over and over again. The thing that differentiates, and I say this now from personal experience with them, the thing that differentiates Caben, Terry, Isaac at True Champion Gaming from lots of other players who are maybe getting day twos, but never going past that. I include myself in this. 100% I include myself in this, is the amount of reps those guys get is more than you could dream of. It's more than you could imagine. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, like I was not putting in the reps they were, but I was still getting, I was still grinding away multiple nights a week, like, 3 or 4 or 5 nights a week. Like you just have to be putting that time in. Otherwise you are not going to have like the muscle memory and the game sense to kind of think on your feet when situations present themselves that are like weird and different and stuff. Like it just doesn't work. It's the same reason why like athletes are practicing, every day a week for, a game once a week. You just need to get that repetition and that practice in order to drill in the skills you need so you can pull them up at a moment's notice when you need them. And like, yeah, I joke about it a lot with Dan about how he doesn't play the game anymore, but and like he just doesn't also get the reps in, unfortunately.
Yeah. No, it's true.
Like, it's true. No shade to Dan, because Dan is also like just an incredibly talented player, like naturally. But like, yeah, it just, if you don't put the time in, you're not going to be able to like get the fruits of your labor out of that work.
The athlete, analogy is, there's going to be a bunch of people who think, yeah, but like, their muscles are growing or whatever, and that's different. And that is to completely ignore the fact that your brain is also a muscle, and you have a thing called neuroplasticity, and your neurons will they'll create certain pathways to figure out certain situations and to make it easier to figure out situations when they come up. And, you see things and then you're like, oh, I've seen this before. I knew it happened when I did it this way, or I know that intuitively this is the thing I need to do now to give me the best odds of getting through this. Like, it's just, it seems like it shouldn't be real. So I don't blame you if you're like, it's kind of silly, like whatever, if I know the game good enough, I'm going to be fine. But I mean, Taylor's absolutely right about everything, including me being naturally talented. But no, including the number of reps I need to get, which is why when we have the confirmation of the Canadian ascent, I'm letting everybody know, unless something goes horribly wrong, I'm playing in that, and I'm putting the reps in.
Let's go.
I'm going to make it happen. It's going to be difficult. And it's going to be difficult because I have so many irons in fires and so many videos and stuff, but I am going to do my best to get in more reps than at least my goal. And again, yeah, I think setting realistic goals for everyone is really good too. My goal is to get in more reps for this event than I have for any previous event. I think that's a reasonable, achievable goal. And that has the same potential outcome. Like, I'd love to say my goal is to top 8 the event, and that is my goal, but I know I can achieve the one I just set, and that one would come along with it potentially if I do a good enough job too. So we'll see.
Oh, this is an excellent goal. I'm so excited to kind of hold you to this and help you achieve that, because I would love to see you back at 9th place or better. Like, let's get you back there.
Please. I want 8th actually.
Specifically better. Okay. You got to start somewhere.
If I get 9th again,
that would be heartbreaking. That would
I'm gonna feel pretty bad about that.
I at least feel horrible.
I'm in the position right now. Just I really need to achieve a day 2 again at the minimum. I have gated myself out of previous day 2s now, and that hurts a lot. However, shout out to Glenny Boy because he then made 4th, or I think it was 4th, 3rd or 4th something, and that was sick at Utrecht. But man, I still have not lived down that misplay that I made in time because my reps were low. That was 100%. I was slow, and I fumbled my cards. This is like a great example, honestly. For people who don't remember, I was in Recollection phase trying to get the kill on him. I was playing Watermill or whatever. I think I was going for what would you do fast speed? Why was I trying to, was it a refracting or something? I don't remember. I was going for a kill that the response to was Blanche. I keep saying her name wrong. Blanche is what you're supposed to say. I've learned. You learn these things as casters when people correct you and you're like, oops. So I go for the kill. He goes for Blanche. I have 2 torrential blasts in hand and the influence to play them. I put cards down, play the first torrential blast, thinking I got it. He plays a second Blanche, and I realize I put the first torrential blast down in memory. So, and that was the thing. That is like an obvious, if I had been in that scenario previously and someone did second Blanche and Rec in response to this one, I would have just thought of that theoretically and gone, oh, I have to hold the second one up for the second Blanche, but I just didn't have the reps. So Glenny even gave me a shot to win. He like, we were in time, but he said, well, just show me what the strat would have hit. And then, if it would have killed, because I had a strat that turn too. And like, and if he would have been a cool guy and just been like, yeah, it's fine, I concede. But and then I flipped for the strat and I got like, I super low rolled the float too and didn't kill him anyway. So we were just like, all right, fine, you got it, man. Whatever.
But yeah, no, that's like the perfect example of just like getting into practice and knowing your deck and knowing the plays and knowing how your deck performs into the meta. You have to be putting in that work in order to get the results you want. So we talked about the tournament, we talked about prep. Let's talk about the actual kind of like results of this thing, right? So
yeah.
This is like the last kind of big event of the MRC season. And before we really dive into the meta, Dan, why don't you like help our listeners understand how they can help the channel out?
As this is going to be the last episode where I can actually say this. So my call to action for you all, if you want to help out Maindeck, is to, if you can make it, come to the regional at JWW Sports Cards and Gaming next week. I know it's short notice, but come on, fun road trip. You can do it. June 7th. We
got guys coming from Arkansas, which is like a 13-hour drive. And if they can do it, you can do it.
I don't know if it's going to materialize, but I did get a message or a response to one of my posts about this from Chess Club Noel that he was actually going to try to make it to this one as well, which would be a lot of fun. It would be really, really cool it's going to be cool. We are doing a ton of fun stuff. We've got these exclusive Arasana sleeves that you might want to pick up. We'll be returning some packages of the old Guoja sleeves from the previous event. If you were eyeing those and wanted to pick some up, they will be out of the vault that week as well. And then we're going to do afterwards a bunch of giveaways and stuff and a fun event. And afterwards, we're going to do a little after party dinner where you can just come hang out with Maindeck. And if anyone comes from TCG or Chess Club or whatever, they'll be hopefully there too. And yeah, it should just be a lot of fun. The big cool thing about this is the only North American regional with Mercurial Heart Ultra Edition legal. So if you have been dying to get in some good practice against, again, get in these reps, okay? Like, just to tie this back, if you want to get in solid competitive reps against members of Maindeck and whoever else attends this for maybe the return of Slimes or your Robots deck.
Since I'm going to call this the Glaze cast, you will get some reps in against 2 Worlds competitors.
True.
Just going to throw that one out there.
Absolutely true. Yeah. You get against actual Worlds competitors, Ascent champions. We have bounties out on Taylor, Mitch, and Kyle, who won Ascent Worlds last year as well. So we've got bounties that you can earn. look, guys, there's a lot of reason. There's a lot of reason to come on down to this. So don't miss it. Come on down on June 7th and hang out with us. Have a good time. That's the best way right now you can support us. And if you can't make it, at least send the link to your friends or something. It'll be down in the description. Just say like, hey, I can't go, but you guys should. That'd be really, really helpful for us.
Very much so. All right. So thank you for putting up with the ad. Now let's get back into the meta here. So NA Nationals, the second largest Nationals, I think, with 210 players in attendance after all was said and done. Pretty good size event. Not as big as some of our like most recent ascents, but it was 210 players that had qualified through accumulating enough invitational points. So these are all players that were like ready to go and ready to compete and ready to win some chances to compete on the world stage. Day one was pretty wild. We've seen kind of the most fractal decks day one, I think, that we've seen ever, with 26% of the field playing fractals, so like 20 or 55 fractals decks out there. Also, just a ton of fire aggro. 34 fire aggro decks showing up. We had 21 Genbu decks, 11 Windluxum, and then kind of a smattering of a bunch of other stuff after that. So just like, if you came to this event, I really hope you were ready for fractals. And honestly, you should definitely just be ready for fractals moving forward, because this is looking to be like a very, very large portion of the metagame for a very long time.
Hi. So I'm in the middle of editing this, and Dissonant Fractal gets banned, which is going to affect probably like a lot of our discussion here. I just need you all to know that we recorded this prior to the ban list, and now Dissonant Fractal is banned. Is Fractals gone? It's going to hit the consistency. It's going to hit the speed. It's definitely going to be a less prominent thing. People are probably going to stop sideboarding as much for it or something. I don't know, but we talk about, the upcoming metagame for the rest of this podcast. We talk about our thoughts on the ban list. I will later tell you that I think Dissonant might go to Cat 1. It did go to Cat 3 right away. Surprise. So, but I just need you to know that it is now banned. Part of this podcast is like slightly out of date, but not too much. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of it and have fun with the fresh new meta where I have no idea what you even should play anymore. It's going to be crazy and really exciting at Worlds. There was a pretty stark difference in the spread of decks between last Nationals and this one. Last Nationals, I was praising on social media. There were like 6 different deck styles or something, all elements represented, whatever. This one, ultimately, when we got to day 2, the fractals did stand on the top of everyone. Fractals was everywhere day 1, and had a conversion between day 1 and day 2 that was fairly even, which just indicates that it's about I think we like to think of it as a rated deck at that point, right? It's not like overrated or underrated. It's just, it's a good deck. It's part of the format. It's a huge thing, and you need to prepare to beat it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I think from the 55 Fractal players, 14 of them made day 2. Day 2 was 46 players this time. So we've moved now from the previous kind of top 32 day 2 structure to the new point threshold day 2 structure, where for like 8-round day 1s, you need to hit a 5-1 record for 16 points, or for day 2, you need 18 points, which is equivalent to a 6-3 record. Or for 9-round tournaments, you need a 6-3 record, 18 points. Right. I think I said for day 2, which duh. But yeah, so out of the 46 players we got now for this day 2, 14 were on Fractal. So yeah, it was a pretty good conversion rate. Windluxum actually converted incredibly well. Putting 7 of the 11 Windluxum players made day 2, which is very, very unheard of for a lot of stuff. And there was a solid 2 Fire Luxum decks that made it out of, there's like, I think another 10 Fire Luxum. So Fire Luxum just had a much worse showing overall than Windluxum. Fire Luxem, I mean, which makes sense. Like Fire Luxem has a pretty poor Fractals matchup, and I think the strategy was for a lot of these Fire Luxem players to come and prey on the Wind Luxem and other Wind decks that might be popping up to try and fight the Fractal decks with the Scatter Essences and Mystic Purifiers and Reclaiming Mystic Purifiers. And unfortunately, that just did not materialize. Like Fractals just ballooned quite a bit in popularity from Oceania Nats, like Dan said. Going from that nice spread that we had to a very fractal heavy metagame, very aggro heavy metagame as well.
I think my take on the Luxem thing is the Wind one, first of all, that's just a more robust deck than the Fire one. Like the Fire one can be a little more explosive in just achieving that level 3, like kind of pop off thing. Mm-hmm. The Wind one needs to take a little more time usually, but also it just can play allies and slice and dice you. And that's like, and the ally lines in Wind Luxem are pretty good. And actually with MRC Alter, we have the new Lookout as well. Some kind of a lookout. I don't remember the first word in its name. I probably will have to figure that out.
It's Wind Bless, isn't it?
Is it Wind Bless? Wind Bless Lookout? That sounds right. That sounds good.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But yeah, we have that as a new, very efficient way of getting preparation counters, which is likely to even kind of further push those fast slice and dice lines that are really a hallmark of the Wind version. So I think between the two decks, the Wind being a little more robust against a field that had a bunch of pretty good decks that you had to be able to take down. And it's like, I think you're right, Taylor. It's like Fire was hoping for certain matchups, but they weren't common enough, or they just didn't happen enough.
Yeah. The Wind Luxem deck is just like a much better mid-range deck too, where like Fire Luxem is just all in on the end game. Yeah. Like they just want to ignore their opponent for like the first 2 or 3 turns of the game and then start doing things. And that works really well when you're playing into like slower Wind decks that are going to take time to get value with Windmill Engineer and with Sadie, and, you know, try and potentially like play an Asen and bounce one thing and hit you for 3 a turn. But if you're doing that, you just aren't going to catch up to what the Fire Luxem's doing. But if you're like actually starting to like pressure the Luxem player with these really aggressive Fire Lorraine starts, or by scaling really quickly with Fractals, the Fire Luxem player just doesn't have the tools to slow those options down enough, really. Whereas like the Wind Luxem can play a pretty nice defensive game, and they have a lot of good pieces of interaction into those early games.
Yeah. I also want to caution people about looking at the 64% conversion on Wind Luxem and thinking like the thing you think about right away is you go, wow, like that's an insane conversion. Clearly that deck is like way better than people give it credit for. And there's probably a part of that. Frankly, I bet there's a bunch of groups out there who don't have anyone playing Wind Luxem at their locals, and if they did, they might clean up.
Absolutely.
Because the deck is really good. But the deck Luxem decks in general have a flaw of being like, well, I don't know, but they're very skill intensive decks. And I think it's just really important to remember that the players who brought Wind Luxem to nationals are likely on the high end of skill for that deck, for that event, whatever. So there is a bit of a skew here that is really, it's difficult to like pin down, but the conversion rate gets skewed by, I think, these just being really, really skilled players who are good at not going to time, good at securing the wins, good at knowing how to adapt between that aggro push and that slow game. That is like we talked about in the last episode, actually. They are really good at playing at their peaks with this deck. And so that, I think, skews the conversion up a good amount.
That skews it a ton. I know Steve was debating between Wind Luxem and Fractals for this event, and ultimately he brought it down to his trademark coin flip, which told him to play Fractals. But yeah, he had Luxem ready to go in his back pocket as well. And I know like one of his concerns was just like how taxing that deck is to play. You've got to you have to fight every single line, and you've got to play them all very, very cleanly. There's very, very little room for error. Whereas like Fractals, sometimes you just puke out a win, and sometimes you make mistakes and you still get the opportunity to come back and win. You just don't get that a lot with Luxem Xander decks. The skill ceiling is just it's very high, but the skill floor is also incredibly low. So you're like in long, grueling tournaments like this, I think the deck is just incredibly difficult to play really well. But if you are able to do that and you're able to focus for the 8, 12 rounds of a tournament for this, then you're going to be in pretty good shape. So a lot of these players that were playing Windluxem, we've seen their names in a lot of stuff. We've got Quarax, who was a world's competitor last year and has won an Ascent. Did he win Ascent Utrecht? Is that the one he won this year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He topped 3 Ascents in a row this year.
Yeah, it's just absolutely bonkers, right? Oh my gosh. Oli.
I think I said it like 3 different ways while I was casting.
I believe that. Also known as Jet from SoCal.
Yeah, Jet's crazy.
He's very, very strong player. He's topped multiple Ascents, I think. Let's see, the Rain Goddess and Sano I've seen in lots of day 2s. So just like a ton of like EMP Ascent Seattle top 8 competitor. Also a CNats top 8 competitor as well. So like just these are all really, really strong players bringing this deck to this event, which is not to like dissuade anybody from playing it, but again, you got to make, if you're going to play this deck, this is the deck you have to have your reps on. Like as a friend and teammate, I won't let Dan take Windluxem to Ascent Canada because there's no way he's going to have the time to figure that one out.
I'm not going to try. Don't worry.
But yeah, if you have the time for it, Windluxem, excellent choice. There's also a lot of Genbu that's been creeping up pretty slowly over the course of the season, and seeing more and more representation as we go. And I think a lot of that too is just because it has pretty good matchups into a lot of these win lists, where it can it slows the game down well enough. Genbu is like a pretty good card and requires them to have ensnaring fumes. Usually there's like, that's the answer you need. Like 1 Dream Fairy, 1 Arrow Trap. These cards are not enough to take care of a Genbu, especially with the Genbu player going to level 3 and getting that lineage release to negate a lot of this stuff. So Genbu itself just requires a lot of space in your deck to answer. And then they're still coming at you with multiple other threats. Frostborn Paladin is still a very strong card. Rippleback Terrapin, when that's played, is still very strong. Fractal of Polar Depths is a very difficult to interact with card that are all attacking you from fairly different axes. So
that's what we saw from that deck. I think the most in the games was just the variety of ways that could win the game was so much that like the decks would have to spend a lot of their time focusing on dealing with Turtle. And it's 2 things you're dealing with. Genbu has the Resonating Fugue combo where you flip the power and life stats after activating its ability to buff its life up equal to your water cards in grave. So there's that combo, and they're trying to counter that by playing things like Nullifying Lantern or trying to banish cards from the graveyard or whatever, or just trying to hold up interaction just to deal with the Genbu in general. And the deck doesn't need to do that. It can also just attack with a 3/9 every turn. If you guys think Frostborn Paladin is good, it's a 3/9. It's better. It's better. And you just get it for free. And I think a lot of people just underrate the fact that this deck just puts out a 3/9 and then just you still have to do something about that. And meanwhile, if you're spending all your effort dealing with that stuff, it goes, oh, actually, I found all 3 Polar Depths, so you just mill out. Or, hey, I found my 1 or 2 of Stratagem. You just die from that. You didn't put out Safeguard Amulet because you were too busy trying to deal with the 3/9? Too bad. Yep. It's strong. Very strong deck.
Yeah, it's very powerful. The free 3/9 is just a really big like wrench in the plan. Costs them 0 reserve, 0 influence to do this. They just get it for playing the game, essentially. Turn 4, turn 5, you got to deal with this now.
The games between Jofacha and like Caben, for example, that game in particular, you got to see, the combo doesn't even need to exist. You can totally just nuke the graveyard, whatever. You can still Resonating Fugue your 3/9, and the Resonating Fugue becomes pay 2 reserve, deal 6 damage to the opponent, plus the 3 damage that it's swinging for. we definitely thought Caben had the odds on his side going into that match, especially after Joe Facha got a game 1 loss for failing to decide from the previous game, which was heartbreaking.
Yep.
Until he went and won the match anyway by just attacking with the turtle. Yeah, it was sick.
Yep. Yeah, I lost at least one game this weekend just to an attack for 9 on its own I had a fracturized lantern out, and they were like, whatever, I'll just beat you anyway. Like,
yep.
I don't need to hit you for 27. I can just hit you for 9. I was like, yeah, you sure can. That sucked, but we got there. But anyway, yeah, Genbu, you got to be aware of this deck now. It's I've been saying this for a while, but it's been continuing to creep up. It's at the point now where it's a significant share of the metagame finally. So you've got to be aware of it and ready for it. And then from this kind of initial day one smattering of like really represented decks, Fire Aggro did not convert well at all. Oh. 3 of the 34 Fire Aggro decks made it to day 2. This shows we're really at the point in the format where like the format slowed down. Everybody's kind of ready for these aggro decks. They've prepared their answers and they're ready to, recover some life and then beat down the aggro decks in response. So it's pretty hard to be an aggro player at the moment, but this is kind of how it happens too. You like the beginning of the format, we had a bunch of different aggro decks showing up. We saw which aggro decks were more efficient, and those were the aggro decks that really started to take over. We saw a lot of Philo, saw some Fiza, and a little bit of Fire Cleric as kind of the top dogs from the aggro dog pile, as it were, from Ascent Seattle. And then at that point, everybody can consolidate the answers they need for these aggro decks into a couple different packages instead of trying to answer every single one. Because again, like these all attack from different axes as well, right? Like Fire Dao Chan is very spell based. It's got a lot of non-combat damage. You can still hit with some allies, but for the most part, it's going to like Searing Rebuke you for 9 and hit you with a Cinder Geyser for 4 and hit you with an Everflame Staff for another 4 after that. So like you need answers for that. You've got Fiza and Philo, which hit with a lot of attack damage. Philo is going to end the game attacking you with like a Fire Momentum for 20. We talked about this in the last podcast, but Philo is actually probably closer to a mid-range deck, which is why I think we're seeing it continue to have a fair bit of success. That and Clarent are both really powerful at the moment. Fiza is mostly attacking you as well. It's got some non-combat damage to really get some extra reach in there. It's going to hit you with a Blazing Throw, maybe a couple of Rococo on enters. But for the most part, it's using the combat phase to end the game. But anyway, you've got a few different axes coming at you, and as these aggro decks beat themselves up and get down to just a few remaining of these archetypes, the format has figured out how to answer them effectively. And so you're starting to see now the aggro decks that do exist are in rough shape, and you'll see like individual aggro decks that aren't those have some pretty decent runs into the tournament. Like I think we had a Suzaku deck. I want to say we had a Suzaku deck day 2, but maybe it was just high placing from day 1 after the cutoff.
I definitely heard about some Suzakus like late in the event that were surprising people, some of the better players.
Yeah, yep. And then obviously David from the Banished Zone playing with Maindeck, he's always got his Suzaku ready to go to varying levels of success. I think his tournament run, unfortunately, was ended pretty early by aggro decks. The Suzaku deck is one of those that is not quite efficient enough to keep up with the other aggro decks, but has some pretty strong lines into non-aggro decks. So
I know you can't trust Dan's eyes when it comes to this, but I do not see a Suzaku in the day 2 set of players here.
No, I can confirm that.
Okay.
But, there was a couple kind of in the 50s there, I think, or where I saw one somewhere.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, it was somewhere. But anyway, yeah. So like the main point is the format's figured out how to answer them. So the format's slowing down now because now that there's some mid-range decks that answer these aggro decks really well, some more control decks have also started to pop up to prey on these mid-range decks that have taken over the format, which is really what you see kind of with like the idea behind the Fire Xander players showing up. They're like, okay, it's time to bust this out and go over the top of some of these people. The Fractal list is actually turned into quite a bit of a control deck now as well, I would say. People are cutting, the big thing is people are cutting Gildas from the list, or going down to just like one copy or something. That was a really aggressive card. Obviously, it does a lot of damage, but it doesn't actually help control the board in a lot of cases because it's not going to stick around very often. 3 health is just not a lot of health when you're trying to fight for board control against allies and against these Wind Luxem decks and these Wind Tristan decks. So again, we're seeing the format slow down and become control, which is maybe the best, simplest way to put it. But yeah, I mean that's kind of the big thing. There's still a lot of allies running around. They actually did pretty well this event. There's only a few. There's like 25 ally decks total between wind and water allies day one, but they converted pretty well with 6 of those wind ally decks and 1 of the water ally decks going to day 2. So that's like a third of those, which is about what you would expect for allies. Still a very solid deck. The good players are going to get rewarded with that again. The interesting thing here, though, is that there were more Crux decks day 1 than ally decks. Or I should say wind ally decks, not ally decks total. But
yeah, there are a bunch of water allies too.
Yeah,
a chunk of them.
But but still a bunch of Crux decks running around, which is kind of sweet to see. Still, mostly the rain, but there was a water Merlin that made day 2. We'll get into that in a little bit. A couple shout out lists here to throw out at the end. But yeah, I mean the main takeaway here is just that like Fractals just dominated the top tables. Once they got to day 2, they just quickly shot up. There's 5 of them in top 8 and a bunch more hanging out around the top like 20, 25. So
yeah, I want to point out there just about that though. I know a lot of people are going to look at this and there are going to be a bunch of people who are going to, their takeaway is going to be 5 Fractals in top 8, Fractals broken. It's insane, whatever. And I'm going to argue just a little bit that a portion of what you're seeing here is player focused. Or your analysis should be more focused on the players than the deck itself in this case. Again, I'm not saying it's a bad deck or anything. It's an insane deck. You need to know how to play against it. You need to be prepared for it. It's going to be part of the metagame. But I already talked about how Maindeck collaborated with True Champion Gaming, and the top 8, the 5 Fractal decks were 3 True Champion Gaming, 2 Maindeck players. Then the 12th place was another Maindeck player. Amikuru at 9th. By the way, I personally feel, I sympathize with your positioning. Amikuru. I'm sorry.
I played them. I lost them day 1, round 5, and they're a very strong player.
Yeah. Amikuru was not one of our specific team who all brought that same list and intended to play it and tested it really extensively. And then otherwise, we've got, again, correct me if I'm wrong, Taylor, but Wild Sheba at 22, OKG Business or Cage Business, Burner was obviously going to be on a good deck at 25. And then True Champion Isaac at 27, other champion. There's a few other here, Krells, Long N, Chess Club Knoll, but here's Terry again. Here's Steve-O from Maindeck. Yeah, that's like most of the day 2 are True Champion Maindeck who are on this, and then there's some people like Burner, and there's a few other people who were on Fractals. And if I would argue that if Maindeck and True Champion brought a different list, a lot of those names would be the same, but you would take away a different take on the metagame, right?
Yeah, imagine if we had all been on Wind Luxem instead and still had the same result. Like that deck would feel very busted at the moment.
And of course, a lot could change. I'm not saying obviously they just bring whatever list and they get in. That's not all. I mean, Taylor might say that about himself, but
I mean, obviously, yeah. I can play whatever. It's no big deal.
But just the point is I think focus on the conversion rate, right? It was high presence. It was like Slime's level presence. Mm-hmm. It was also a conversion rate that was about identical, 26% rep on day one, 25% conversion into day two. It means it's a good deck. But I don't think you look at the top 8 and because if you specifically look at the players, you need to include that data point in there and be like, there are players here who could have brought other lists, and that would have completely changed how you would take away, what's the best deck, or what's the overpowered deck or whatever. I'm saying this all ahead of our ban announcement, where I think a lot of us don't expect fractals to be hit personally.
Yeah, I'm expecting no changes on like June 4th or whatever the Monday is. June 2nd. Maybe we'll see something move up like in a category. We might go from, I think Lost in Thought's the only thing at the moment that's in a category 1 that would move up to category 2. We might see something else get added to category 1, but like I don't think it's going to be anything too crazy. I would be pretty surprised if something just went to category 3. I think the format is really wide open right now. Like if you're looking to go to the Fargo Regional in a couple weeks and you're trying to figure out what deck to bring, you can kind of pick whatever. I would pick whatever you're most comfortable on. I would maybe think about shying away from aggro just because the format's getting pretty aggressive to that, or pretty hostile to that at the moment. Yeah. But like anything you're good with and comfortable with and have practice on would be a good deck to play in the next couple of weeks for sure. So, or any just brew from MRC that you think is good that you want to get like just a good test in with. I think ban list wise, my guess is if anything in the fractal deck, we might see something happen like Dissonant Fractal Cat 1. Mm-hmm. To me, that would be the thing that would make sense, is saying we recognize that this card, everyone looks at this card and goes, this is ridiculous. Like no person has ever looked at that card for the first time and thought, that seems like a standard power level card. Glibs 4 is insane consistency. Mm-hmm. The reservable is not hard to turn on. Yep. The cost is ridiculously low, creating explosive starts. It's the card to look at, I think. And I said this to several people over the weekend too. It's the card to look at if you're planning to, if you think Fractals actually is too strong and you're trying to pull it back. But I wouldn't imagine it. I actually wouldn't imagine above Cat 1. I would expect Cat 1 have worlds like we expect with the format we know, with MRC Alter added in. There's, I think, going to be plenty of interesting stuff happening at Worlds still. Then if it has an inordinate showing, if it's like Fractals dominates Worlds, then you could emergency move it to 3, or you could actually just put it at 2 and be like, this is the last month. DTR is coming anyway. And then you can move it to 3 if DTR doesn't push it out. Mm-hmm. I think like that's a really reasonable line that they could take to. Yep, definitely. Yeah, let's just say I would say that if this showed up on your Prize Picks app or your DraftKings app as, you got 3-1 odds that they're moving something to Cat 3 from Fractal, I would not take that. I think that's a rough one.
Agreed.
All right, but yeah, so sweet. Let's just finish up with these sweet lists here. We're running over time, or at least as far as I thought, or as long as I thought we were going to go. So we're going to kind of breeze through these a little bit. But all these players did incredible with them, with these lists, and these are definitely really sweet lists to pick up and take a closer look at. So we've got Jimmy Lee, obviously, as the kind of like the Fire King, the level 3 King. I'm not sure where his crown lies at the moment, or how many he has. He has quite a few at this point, I'm sure. But he showed up with Fire Prismatic Crux Lorraine. So took 15th place overall with this. Secured a Gauntlet slot. So congrats, Jimmy Lee.
Yes.
But yeah, so he's got this sick brew here. He's got Lorraine Crux Knight to top out the Lorraine lineage. He's got Clarent Reimagined in there, Prismatic Edge for the good stuff. And then the really spicy tech in the material deck here is Sword Saint's Vow. This is something a lot of people looked at with Spirit Ruler, obviously, because Lorraine brings that back then, puts a bunch of extra durability counters on it, which gives it a bunch of extra power. With Sword Saint's Vow by itself, it just kind of hangs out here. Gets a little extra durability counters every once in a while, But Jimmy is also running a couple Honed by Fires in the main, and then obviously Tempered Steel for floating memory. And these are both crafts which are going to trigger the Sword Saint's Vow triggered ability, put some extra durability counters on there on top of what Honed by Fire and Tempered Steel do. So you can just play this as a sword that you're going to like hit for like 5 or 7 or whatever, because Honed by Fire is also adding 2 damage to that, right? So that's just like a fairly powerful play to start closing out a game on its own. And then, of course, you got the sweet Crux package that we all know and love with Ghosts of Pendragon and Spirit Blade Ascension, and the off-element floating memory that you can discard to Creative Shock or Hasty Messenger if need be. Seems like a sweet list at the moment. And then obviously Flame Sweep is pretty good into some of these decks.
Yeah. I'm just going to let people know the deck list is going to be linked in the description. Just due to my time right now, I'm probably not going to have it displayed on screen, even though I know that would be really cool. But I got a lot to do. So deck list in the description down there. Check that out. And I really like his list a lot too. Crux Knight is finally getting a little bit of respect, which I really, really think is warranted. Clarent really made Crux Knight a lot more explosive, a lot more useful. And the combination of Crux Knight and Sword Saint Vow gives Jimmy these like wild rending lines where he can go from almost no damage to you're dead, which is cool. And you know, that's one of the reasons he's able to leverage this a little bit and score more wins than I think a lot of people would have expected, other than the fact that if they saw that Jimmy Lee had submitted this list, they would go, he's probably going to do just fine.
Absolutely. Next up, we've got, I'm going to butcher this, so I'm so sorry.
Sarik Longtard. I got it.
Sarik Longtard. Okay, there we go.
The casters practice this a lot before casting this match.
Big ups. So yeah, that's the other thing too. All 3 of these decks that we're going to talk about, they were featured at least once over the weekend on stream. So you can go back and find those matches in the VODs. But yeah, one more time.
Sarik Longtard.
Sarik Longtard. So that first.
It's an I, not an L. I know, it surprised me.
Okay, here we go. All right, perfect. Anyway, they took 43rd on day 2. So they made day 2. Did not quite finish into the Gauntlet, unfortunately. But they had a very, very cool Water Crux Merlin list that showed up here. Still running the nerfed Scepter of Lumina, which honestly I really love to see. I love that card. Even if it's only drawing me 1 card, it's still fantastic. But this is a pretty unique list. Like clearly they came ready to fight fractals with Blanches in the main, extricating touches in the main, ready to go. They've got inundating clashes to help you level up from Lorraine to Merlin with some sweet floating memory attacks that hit for 4. The kind of big innovations here that I've seen is Nia and Sadie in the main as well. They played this list at Seattle as well. They only had Nia at that point. They've since added Sadie for Nationals here, and it seems like an incredibly strong card, especially in conjunction with some of Dan's favorite tech from the weekend, I think.
Oh, it's so sick. I think it's not just fractals they were prepared to face, but if you look at this list, it's very clear that they had been testing against Luxem, and they did not want to lose that matchup. And there's a really unfortunate moment in game 1 of the stream where the player misses lethal. They had a Cone of Frost play that if they had directed it correctly, could have scored the win. But what you get to see is their tech paying off in those matchups of the Mandate of Honor coming in, which says the opponent can't, if they have 8 or more cards in hand, they can't draw cards. And
as long as you control a unique ally.
Correct. As long as you control a unique ally. And it turns out that Sadie, who does not have a class bonus on her ability to just simply return her to hand anytime she's targeted for any reason, is really easy to put out there every single turn. And the Luxem player whose game plan is completely revolving around going above 8 cards in hand just goes, I don't know. It's like really fun to watch the players like try and navigate this, like never really seeing this board state before and going, I don't really know exactly the play to make here, because you've got this like Sadie out with the Mandate that's hard to deal with. They're like, but it's good to make them replay it. And then the Nia comes out and names a Xander Deft Executor, names Xander level 2. And then there's this like cogs trying to figure out like, how do I draw a card on my next turn? Am I supposed to level to Xander here, but then I lose these cards and then I can't pick this thing up because I like whatever. It's like, it's really fun. And it's quite powerful. It was clearly just a Water Merlin deck where I think this is how you build Water Merlin, just like Noel did in Utrecht, but you just go, what's the meta game? This is the set of cards that beats that. And then I'm just going to rely on Merlin to, cover anything else I need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like this a lot. I feel very, very vindicated and validated right now with Mandate of Honor seeing high level play here. There's a lot of people on main deck that were saying it's garbage. And no, I'm going to get some value out of my sweet CPR that I won in Michigan. So this is sick. I love to see this. Yeah. Also love seeing the Geldis in the sideboard too. The Merlin mainstay at this point. That's honestly like another thing I think like Windluxem is going to have a really hard time dealing with. What are they supposed to do against a 5/8? They just get wrecked, hopefully see their Dream Fairy or something. So they can
do both slice and dice attacks against it.
Oh, yes, please. That sounds great.
Yeah, exactly.
Sign me up. But congratulations on the day 2 finish, Sarik Longtard. And we hope to see you continue to do well. And then finally, last but not least, we have Atka on a sweet Razor Gale Wind Vanitas list that proves Razor Gale is not dead despite the nerf to 3 visits, only being able to activate that if you rest your champion. So this list starts with a Serene Spirit, goes up to Vanitas level 3. You don't really need to worry about the Serene Spirit at any time once you're level 1, since Vanitas is already wind, so you can freely pop that and recover a lot of life. So you're effectively sitting on like 25 life in the early game, like as early as turn 2, which is a ton of life, obviously. You get all the sweet wind tools that we have been like talking about. Some we haven't mentioned Stifling Trap at all much, but Stifling Trap is really good right now. Yep. You get Ensnaring Fume still. You get your Dream Fairies. You get the sweet Razor Gale Calling, obviously, which just really helps close up games in a very short fashion, especially when you're attacking with things like Maiden of Glimmer's Dusk, which I think is the first time we've seen this card see play at a major event. This is the new 3-cost Wind Fantasia Ally Cleric Apparition. It's a 2/2 with class bonus. Costs 1 less to activate for each of up to 2 Fantasias you control. So you get a Razor Gale or 2 out, and this thing's pretty cheap. And then you play it, and you get a ping for each Razor Gale you have, and then it's going to attack for 2 as well. So it helps represent a ton of damage.
It's with 2 Razor Gales. It is a Blazing Throw, which is really sick.
Ooh, it's a Blazing Throw that you have to continue to answer.
Yeah, you pay 1, deal 4 immediately with the 2 Razor Gales, and then also Killader is going to keep attacking.
Yep, this is sweet. And then obviously you're playing Vanitas, so you get to play like multiple Diablerie main and have it be very good. So sick. I almost got by that on stream. Thankfully, I had the Glimmering Refusal ready for that. I completely forgot about Diablerie, so I'm very happy I was holding that up. But
that was I remember that moment. I was casting your game.
Yes, that was a really good match. Actually, that was a lot of fun. I think we both played really well there.
Yeah.
But, overall, I'm excited to see Razor Gale back in the meta in this fashion specifically, because like there's a lot. This is like a deck that is not going to sit there and dirtle around forever, like even the Kongming versions were back in the Mortal Ambition meta.
AMB meta.
Yeah, AMB. Sweet list. Very excited about it. I think they were very ready for a lot of the metagame as well.
Yeah. Yeah, there are some cool standouts here. There's definitely some lists that people should look at, should toy with. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the big thing is MRC Alter Edition. Hey, look at this. You have access to this.
Yo!
MRC Alter Edition. I'm holding up for people listening on podcasts. I'm holding a box up of Alter Edition because the shop has them now. We're cracking for the store. So that's very cool. you can pick that up and start messing with all your fun little lists, see what else we can toy with. And really it's just heading towards Worlds now.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Last stop on the way to Worlds is the Fargo Regional, June 7th. Be there or be square. Come collect some bounties if you can. Come join us for some sweet food afterward. Yeah, and then Worlds, very much. Worlds, obviously, I was already looking forward to because it's such a fun event in general. It's such a sweet celebration of the game, and Ascent Worlds is super fun. If you have the opportunity to play in that tournament, which is the 3v3 standard format where you team up with two other people, you play some games against another team, and your decks have to be constructed using the shared card pool where each deck can or among all three decks, you can only have, up to 4 or one of each copy of card as appropriate, whether it's a main deck or material deck card. Last year, I think the format was, somewhat simple to solve. This year, I think it's going to be much more open. There's not nearly as clear of a right answer of what to bring to this event. So
I put a list in our team server of all the decks that I thought were reasonable choices, and it's really big.
There's a lot there. You have so many options right now. So this is also a tournament where you come in prepared and you can do incredibly well. There's a lot of people who are, they're hopping in for fun, more or less, right? There's there to have a good time. And so if you want to spike it, this is something you can spike. Not saying go in and be rude or mean or anything like that, or get, nasty, but if you want to prepare and do well, you can set yourself up for that opportunity.
Yeah. Importantly, it's very possible that the defending champions will not be playing in teams.
Big true. 2 of the 3 of us will hopefully be playing in top 8 those days.
Or scrambling to get your team together. But I'm not wishing that on you at all.
Yeah, we'll see, listen, Cabin, Limelight, Duck Hats, they scrambled, got their team together. They took second place. So
they did.
We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
That was wild.
That was so much fun. But yeah, that's an incredible tournament. And then obviously World Championships are going to be extra spicy this year for me. So I cannot wait. Hopefully this was not too much of a glaze cast for you. Hopefully it does not feel like you sat there and just finished eating a donut.
That's usually a good feeling, though.
It is a good feeling. So maybe it was a lot of it. Maybe the glaze doesn't matter. But hopefully you can take some fun insights away from the metagame and from some of these lists, and use that to kind of prepare for Worlds trios, or just get you into the right mindset to start brewing for DTR when that releases at the end of July. All these sweet Grand Archive things, but I'm not really sure what we'll do for the next podcast yet, but we will have something very cool, very interesting, ready to go, and we should be able to do this in 2 weeks again. I'm really hoping to get on our regular schedule again now that things have kind of quieted down, but we'll see.
So there's one episode between here and Worlds. So the Worlds week is our release week for this podcast, unfortunately. So I imagine that episode's going to talk about the Fargo Regional. Hopefully we see some cool decks top 8. Maybe talk about some robots or the return of slimes or whoever knows is going to happen. And then after that, we'll see you guys at Worlds.
Excellent. We will see you guys at Worlds. Thank you all for listening to the Recollection Step, and have a good one.
Bye, everyone.